The kill team Crimson Carapace found themselves aboard the Ducal Circlet, the vast and baroque flagship of rogue trader Jackal Varonius. For the first time, the Space Marines met the man whose wealth and ambitions were entwined with their mission. Varonius bowed just enough to show respect, his words honeyed with courtly precision. Astartes, the Emperor's chosen. I am honored, though I confess a little surprised. This vessel has known its share of turbulence, but nothing warranting your chapter's personal attention. It was Caster Domitius who spoke first. A chaos incursion has already taken place. Iscarius traitor Astartes, of the Faithful Writ, attacked our observation station and stole a fragment of a relic. Chaplain Heractis believes another fragment is aboard the Ducal Circlet. If he is right, Malaquance will send more of his kind to retrieve it. Varonius blinked, just once. His composure wavered, a flicker of something behind the eyes, gone as fast as it appeared. For that single instant, the mask slipped. Then it was back. That is troubling. Let me assure you our vaults are impenetrable, mechanicus forged, locked by trinary seal and soul-bound sigil. No cult, no demon could break their sanctity. Sarpenthus stepped forward. Then show us the vault. Let us verify the defenses. Varonius smiled with all the poise of a diplomat fencing in silk. Regrettably, that is the one matter on which I cannot comply. The vaults are the heart of House Varonius's authority. Their contents are dynastic, not purely material. Not even the Inquisition has been granted access without formal process. I say this with the utmost respect. I will not show you the vault. It was the only thing he refused them. Still, his tone remained courteous. Though he clearly considered the kill team's warning exaggerated, he never allowed disdain to enter his voice. A chaos invasion, here, aboard the Ducal Circlet? It stretches credibility, my lords. Still, one must consider every possibility. You will have my full cooperation short of the vault. There was a pause. Then Caster, with measured gravity, asked, have you observed any signs, strange behavior, unusual dreams, speech in unknown tongues, madness among the crew? Varonius looked to Seneschal Krail, who gave a slight nod. There have been a few cases, the rogue trader admitted carefully. Crewmen suffering hallucinations, reports of disturbed sleep. Some claimed to hear singing in empty corridors. A few vocalized languages they never learned. 3 crew had been quarantined for speaking in tongues, suffering warp sight and compulsive murmuring. All of them were affiliated with the navigator houses. But these are void-faring men and women. Fatigue plays tricks. The kill team did not share the rogue trader's optimism. Then, a sharp chime burst from Varonius's voxlink, clipped and urgent. He stepped aside, activated the channel. A terse voice spoke in low Gothic. Apologies, my lords, he said upon returning. I am summoned to a matter of dynastic urgency. He gestured toward the Seneschal. This is my Seneschal, Thaddeus Krail. He acts with my authority. Whatever you need, information, clearance, crew manifests, compartments, he will provide. Varonius inclined his head one last time, diplomatic to the end, then turned and strode from the chamber. The moment the doors sealed shut behind him, Krail stepped forward, a man of iron restraint. His words were clean, exacting, unburdened by ceremony. Where shall we begin, my lords? The kill team asked for a moment in private to take counsel. After a private deliberation, The kill team requested a confidential audience with representatives of the navigator houses aboard the vessel. Seneschal Thaddeus Crail arranged the meeting, which took place in a sealed hall deep within the ship's noble spires. While the representatives publicly denied any knowledge of corruption or abnormality, several later approached the Seneschal in private and requested to speak directly with the kill team, terrified and sweating, begging forgiveness for their earlier lies. Among them, one admission stood out. A navigator of House Valagast had sealed himself in his quarters and ceased all meaningful communication. The kill team demanded access to investigate directly. The navigator chamber was dim, steeped in incense, and lit by pale warp glow. Its occupant, Navigator Alend Weiss, sat cross-legged in stillness, unblinking, unmoving, his third eye half-lidded. The air was unnaturally still and filled with a low whispering. At first it was muffled, as though spoken through water. But as they stepped closer, the words grew distinct, not in low Gothic, but a heretical tongue long thought dead. Icarus Dawn froze mid-step. "This is no human dialect," he signaled. "It's an excommunicated script, banned after the purge of the Temple of the Broken Moon." From Weiss's lips, the mantra came. "Pontiff Sarn Emical will lead the coming change. Pontiff Sarn Emical will lead the coming change." Then, laughter. It began as a low chuckle and rose into a hacking, shrieking cackle, maddening, unstoppable. Weiss seized his own face and began to rip into it with his fingernails, shredding skin and gouging through flesh. Before Castor could close the distance, the navigator had clawed himself to death, drowning in his own blood while laughing through flayed lips. The body was burned. No trace of taint would remain. When the kill team emerged from the navigator's quarters, Seneschal Crail was waiting outside. Castor stepped toward him. "The navigator spoke a name," he said sternly. "Pontiff Sarn Emical. Do you know it?" Crail nodded gravely. "Pontiff Sarn Emical is the head of the ship's ecclesiarchy. He leads all official liturgies aboard the ducal circlet and oversees doctrine for both noble houses and crew. He's delivering a mass right now in the Chapel of Eternal Triumph." Castor's reply was immediate. "Send orders ahead. That chapel is to be quarantined immediately. Post a perimeter. No one enters. No one leaves." The name had been spoken. The trail had revealed its end. Now the judgment would begin. The Chapel of Eternal Triumph was already surrounded by Veronius's elite guard by the time the kill team arrived. It rose like a cathedral nailed to the spine of a god. From the outside, its architecture screamed piety and pride. Gold-limbed statuary of saints and martyrs lined its towers, their faces cracked with age, but eyes painted fresh, as if to see sin with eternal clarity. Massive reinforced doors bore a twin-headed aquila fused with a relic from a broken starship prow, and towering columns flanked either side like silent judges. The kill team approached under escort from Seneschal Crail's security forces, who were already cordoning off the chapel under Crail's command. As they crossed the threshold, Crail remained outside, Vox in hand, orchestrating the lockdown as ordered. Inside was a different world. The chapel interior was immense, a multi-tiered sanctum reaching several decks high, with stained glass windows portraying imperial triumphs that cast crimson and cobalt light across the congregation. Tall iron braziers burned with incense-thick smoke. The smell of tallow, sweat, and old sanctity clung to every stone, and the pews were full. Hundreds of worshippers sat in eerie silence, their mouths slowly forming silent phrases. Their eyes were wide but unseeing, unfocused, shimmering faintly. Not one of them stirred as the kill team advanced down the central aisle, boots echoing like artillery in a chapel sealed by dream. At the pulpit stood Pontiff San Emikel. He was wrapped in a dark robe, covered in heretical runes, towering in stature, arms raised in sermon. Around him flared a red, pulsating aura, like a nimbus of warp-stained flame. But it was not the repetition that struck hardest. It was the words. He was speaking the same ancient heretical language as Navigator Vice. But the message was different. Not prophecy, but invocation. He was calling out, not to the congregation, but through them. Nursus Ged stepped forward, leveled his rifle, and fired, assisted by his servo skull, which tracked warp fluctuations to find a moment of vulnerability. The bolt cracked through the incense-thick air, but struck a shimmering barrier surrounding Emikel. It refracted the shot like oil over iron, and the round ricocheted into the marble wall with a thunderous crack. That impact was the catalyst. The red mist around Emikel responded not violently, but hungrily. It surged outward like fog over stone, spilling down the steps of the pulpit and reaching the first row of worshippers. The moment the mist touched them, their eyes flared red. And then another, and another. Without a word, they rose. And they charged. Dozens of civilians, warped by sermon and sorcery, surged toward the kill team in a wave of silent violence. Their mouths still whispered the forbidden tongue as their hands reached to claw and tear. They were not trained. They were not warriors. But they were possessed, and they were many. The kill team met them head-on. Castor and Sarpenthis formed a brutal spearhead, cleaving bodies with bolter and eviscerator. Icarus Dawn, silent and methodical, moved like a guillotine through a wheat field every strike with his executioner relic blade precise and deadly. Each time one fell, the red mist moved, claiming another worshipper. Nursus and Lucais maintained fire corridors from behind. Nursus, guided by his servo skull, sniping those nearest his brothers with supernatural precision, while Lucais' plasma pistol hissed like divine retribution, felling warped citizens in flashes of light and scorched ozone. Still, more came. Sarpenthis broke through the last line and charged Emikel with a cry that was half defiance, half prayer. His eviscerator sang as it fell, teeth grinding through reality itself, and it struck true. Emikel erupted. A burst of warp flame exploded outward, knocking Sarpenthis clear and collapsing the front of the pulpit. The red mist evaporated instantly. The trance broke. Surviving civilians gasped and screamed, eyes now clear and, seeing the slaughter around them, fled in terror. Some knelt and wept. Others ran for the doors. The last echoes of the chant died on bloodied marble. But the nightmare was not over. From the cratered floor where Emikel had stood, a sickly glow rose, and then a navigator emerged. Not Alend Weiss. This one was worse. Transformed beyond recognition, bloated with warp energy. Its skin was slick with unnatural fluids, and the cables once embedded in its cranium now writhed like Medusan serpents, sensing, grasping. The third eye was now a gate, a bottomless aperture through which something watched back. It floated upward, levitating above the altar, limbs trembling, trailing strands of warp flesh behind it. Nursus, reacting first, fired directly into the creature's face. The bolt struck with righteous force, but instead of falling, the navigator simply turned its head, eye socket cracked and leaking light, and smiled. In retaliation, the navigator unleashed a warp pulse, a concentric shockwave of raw psychic energy that buckled the marble and dimmed lumen bulbs in their sconces. The blast engulfed Castor, Sarpenthis, and Icarus, clawing at their minds. Icarus, cloaked in ritual silence, locked his will and endured. Castor, guided by his brother's unshakable presence, resisted. Sarpenthis, though battered, called on the throne in whispered devotion and stood his ground. The navigator hovered higher, just out of reach of the kill team's melee specialists, raining dread from above. Then, a sound. A crash. Screams. Warped howls. From a sealed side chamber, there came the unmistakable clatter of chains, the ringing of blade against bulkhead, and the screech of something not of this world. The disturbance had been triggered by the navigator's warp fury. Castor, Sarpenthis, and Icarus moved instantly, veering from the unreachable navigator and advancing toward the source of the sounds. Within, they found bloodletters and a Blood Reaper claws already slick with the blood of chapel attendants. The fight was immediate and brutal. Sarpenthis met the first demon with a two-handed cleave, his eviscerator roaring through warped sinew. Castor engaged the Blood Reaper in a test of faith and force, parrying Hellblade strikes with sanctified steel. Icarus Dawn, a living icon of vengeance, struck with exacting finality, dispatching the others with silent fury. Though they triumphed, Castor and Sarpenthis were left bloodied, armor scored and smoking. Icarus was still whole but marked by purpose. Back in the nave, the mutated navigator had ceased its erratic hovering. Drawn toward the source of fire, it now descended, slithering cables hissing with malice, and moved toward Luces and Nursus, who had never stopped their barrage. Nursus, with servo skull spinning, marked every step, guiding each bolt with unrelenting precision. Luces, scorched and resolute, advanced a half step, drawing its attention. It hovered close now, too close, preparing for a second strike. That was the moment. Icarus emerged from the shadows of the side chamber, eyes locked. He moved like finality incarnate. The navigator turned. Too late. There was no battle cry, only the blow. The executioner blade swept forward, a clean arc of blessed fury. It cut through warp flesh, through glimmering skin, through the gate where the eye once was. The creature shivered, not screaming but unraveling. It did not fall. It came apart. A ripple of unreality collapsed into itself, and the navigator was unmade. Only silence remained, broken by the quiet hiss of Luke's breath and the rhythmic whir of Nursus's servo skull stabilizing once more. As the kill team emerged into the hall outside, there, Seneschal Thaddeus Krail met them, pale and visibly shaken. "My lords," he said, "we've received a signal from the Sensorium relay deck. Warp portals have opened."